going to leave you with one thought today, Bryce. I now know categorically that the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin technology.
Okay.
While our government's official position is not to speculate on this subject, we can choose to let our minds explore other possibilities, to use our imaginations. For if we consider that astroscientists agree on one point, that the possibility of life elsewhere is not only quite probable, some feel it is there without a doubt. Let us suppose then that these objects are real space vehicles, extraterrestrial in origin, and not an illusion of the mind.
There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to hide at all.
Oh, hey, sorry guys. I was just about to enjoy this very delicious breath mint that I found lying around in a hangar somewhere. Welcome to Somewhere in the Live Stream, and welcome to Horrible Comedy Hour with Ryan Sprague. I am your host for tonight's journey through Tic Tac talk and everything in between. It's been a week. It has been a week, hasn't it, guys? Oh boy, I don't even know where to begin. A bold claim, as you saw in that intro clip there, by reporter, NewsNation reporter, co-host of the Need to Know podcast, Ross Coulthart, made a very bold claim this past week on his podcast that he knows categorically that the Tic Tac UFO is Lockheed Martin technology. Yes, the Tic Tac was man-made. The Tic Tac was made by an aerospace company. And that was it. That's all we got. And it has left the entire UFO community a little stunned. Some saying we knew this all along. Some saying I had no idea. Some saying I don't believe it for a second. And some saying, that kind of makes sense. So yeah, it has caused quite a stir in the UFO community. So we're going to talk about all of it tonight. And I need your guys' help. I want to know what you think. What do you make of this claim made by Ross Coulthart? Do you believe that the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin technology? We put a poll up on YouTube here, so you can go ahead and vote in that, or let us know in the chat. We'll be taking your questions and comments all night. A big hello to Suzanne, our moderator. She'll be with you guys in the chat all night, putting your questions and comments up. Speaking of which, the super chat and super stickers are open all night. If you want to help support Anomicon 2025, we have a goal of 5 super chats for tonight. Doesn't matter how much, just 5 super chats. Boom. We're in, we're out. I thank you. Anomicon happens on September 20th. But thanks for being here, guys. Usually we cover all the latest UFO news, but this seems to be all everyone's talking about. So we're really going to break it down tonight. Ooh, you guys are already on fire in the chat. I see. I see you. I see you. Hello, YouTubers. Hello, Twitch users. If you're watching us over on Twitter, head on over to YouTube. Watch us on there. You can take part in our highly interactive live chat right here and right now. Rack to the Future. James is here. Joseph. Dalen is here. Who else do we got? J. Ellen Heineken is here. Robert Chafee. Michael Huntington. Trudy Perry. Gareth is here. Hello, guys. Donnie Falls. Daniel Keels. I'm going back up. Kurt is here. Kat is here. See if I'm missing anyone. I am oh wow, man, you guys are just killing it tonight. Welcome to anyone new watching. We cover UFOs. That's what we do here at Somewhere in the Live Stream and on the Somewhere in the Skies podcast. That will be coming out with a brand new episode, just a couple hours. So stay tuned for that. Full disclosure, you guys know me. Suzanne knows me very well. I usually have a 10-page outline for these live streams. She comes at me with another 20 pages. We mix that thing together into a mutant hybrid, and it becomes the episode for the week. However, for this one, Suzanne has been traveling. I had 3 wrestling events to watch this weekend to cover on my wrestling podcast. So that took up about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 hours of my life this past Saturday. Yes, one of those events was 6 hours long. Can you imagine watching a wrestling event for 6 hours? You don't have to imagine because I did it for you. And you'll hear all about it this upcoming Wednesday on the Somewhere in the Ring podcast. If you're not subscribed, go subscribe, please. And thank you. We have a movie review podcast too, somewhere on the screen. You see the pattern emerging here? We have created the Somewhere podcast universe. You can learn more at thespu.com about all of our shows, all of our hosts, and what we cover there. Check it out. What are you guys drinking tonight? I always like to have a drink with you guys. No alcohol for your boy tonight. He's trying to lay a little back on the suds lately. But apparently he's going for the sugar because he's got himself a Monster Energy drink. But it says 0 sugar. Wait. Yeah, 0 sugar. So I should be okay, right? I can have 6 of these and be fine, right? Right? A blue Hawaiian Trudy. Nice. I love that. So where do you guys want to start? I guess at the very beginning. So this past week on the Need to Know podcast with Bryce Zabel and Ross Coulthart, Ross was sort of talking about, just what's going on with UFOs today when it comes to congressional UFO hearings, all the whistleblowers that have come forward. And I only put that in quotes because some people take issue with them being called whistleblowers, but a lot of them have whistleblower protection under the United States government. Therefore, they are technically whistleblowers. But all that being said, something came up towards the end of that episode with Ross and Bryce, and I'm just going to play the clip for you. You saw a small part of it at the beginning there, but let's play the full clip, give you a bit more context about what we're going to be talking about tonight, and we will take it from there. Let me go ahead and upload this video for you guys right now. Here's Ross Coulthart and Bryce Zabel on the Need to Know podcast. Here we go.
They lie about this. The only reason I can think that they're lying about this is because they're trying to conceal the level of incompetence that has allowed the United States, after the expenditure of trillions of dollars on its national security budget, to develop a strategic disadvantage with its potential enemies. That's
based on what you just said, we should assume then a Manhattan Project style endeavor is ongoing right now to try to catch up. Do you hear anything about that?
Well, part of the problem that I'm hearing from people in the program is that effort isn't happening, and that they're seeing the Chinese particularly developing advances that are far beyond what we're capable of. There is, in fact, a frustration that a large part of this program has been egregiously underfunded, and that a lot of what has been developed has been kept secret by the private aerospace companies that control it. I'm going to leave you with one thought today, Bryce. I now know categorically that the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin technology.
Okay.
The Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin technology. Why are we being lied to? This is the issue. Why is the United States government now participating at White House executive level in collusion with the national security state to keep secret the fact that they've made these advances? I suspect it's because they've realized that they're being overtaken by their foreign adversaries, and they don't want you to know that.
Okay, the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin. Well, in some respects, given how insane the Tic Tac behaved during the Nimitz, where it went from 80,000 feet to sea level in less than a second, then I would say, well, there's one for the U.S. team that obviously we have some good stuff out there, if that's the case, right?
Yes, but
I
how
mean,
much of that is being shared with the actual Defense Department that's responsible for the defense of the United States? This is the kind
so
of questions that Congress should be
I see what
asking.
you're saying. So you're saying Lockheed Martin might, or anybody, but Lockheed Martin in this particular case has a Tic Tac that they are testing and have been testing and have access to, but they might not have shared it with the Defense Department of the United States, which probably paid for it in their trillion-dollar budgets. That's kind of mind-blowing in itself.
Those are the questions I think Congress should be asking. I mean, what I'm saying basically is,
why are you saying this, by the way? Where is this from? How do we know this? What's going on?
I'm sorry, Bryce, I can't go there.
I'm about to get bitchy. Ryan's about to be a big old bitch. I'm sorry, I can't go there. Then don't fucking say it on your podcast, dude. Okay. Full transparency, I reached out to Bryce today. Bryce is a very good friend and colleague. You will see him in my upcoming documentary about the Shag Harbor UFO incident. I have worked for Bryce in the past. I wrote for his awesome Medium journal over on medium.com, and he published over a dozen of my articles, so I will forever be indebted to him for that. Love Bryce. But I asked him, I'm like, dude, the hell is going on over there? I need to know. Like, how is Ross going to come at you with a claim like that and then say, can't go there, and then move on? He had to know the type of response this was going to get from the UFO community. And guys, like, I'm the same as everyone else in the UFO field. Like, we will take anything. We will take those scraps. We will take that stuff and we will spin it into gold. We will spin it into something to talk about, because here we freaking are. Right? There's so many different ways we can go with this right now. What do you guys think? I see you going off in the chat. I will go up and get some of your comments. We have some people who sent me voice memos that we're going to play later in the show. I have some quotes from people who were directly involved with the Tic Tac incident. They sent me exclusive quotes that I will be sharing with you guys. We have some clips from other people who were involved with the Tic Tac UFO incident. We have other UFO researchers who have spoken up about this claim made by Ross Coulthart. And then we have some clips from a broadcast that Ross did today over at NewsNation to answer some of the questions about, is the Tic Tac Lockheed Martin technology what he says is categorically certain of. Did that change? Yes, it did. We'll get to it. Gosh, what should we start with? You know what I think I want to do? Let's rewind a little bit, shall we? Let's go back in time and let's hear from Alex Dietrich, one of the pilots who chased the Tic Tac UFO. I had the pleasure of having Alex on the show, I don't know, maybe a year ago at this point. But this clip you're going to see actually comes to us from the American Veteran Center, I believe. And the reason I chose this one is because it's very well produced. The audio quality is great, and it's very succinct. Now, I did cut and splice a little bit of this together, but this is going to give you guys an idea of someone who actually came into contact as a fighter pilot, as someone who has been up there, has seen everything you can possibly think of. And the way she describes this thing, let me know after this clip if you believe that Lockheed Martin could have made the Tic Tac. So let's go ahead and play this, and we'll take it from there. Again, this is very casual tonight, guys. Bear with me as I upload these clips with you and stumble on this Tic Tac journey with the rest of y'all's. Here we go.
4 of us, somebody shouted out, "Hey, look in the water." And when I looked down, I saw a strange churning in the water. So there was a otherwise calm ocean, and then this bit of white water that was churning with no apparent source. So it didn't seem to be a vessel or anything there. And if it hadn't been for that white water, and I don't know if it's related, but if it hadn't been for that as an anchor point for my tally, I don't think that I would have picked up the actual UFO itself, because that flew very close to it. And from there, I saw this strange thing that we affectionately termed the Tic Tac, because it looks like a little breath mint. And when I say little, I mean, from a distance, it's small, but we estimated that it's about the size of our own fuselage. So about 30 to 40 feet long and smooth, just like a Tic Tac breath mint, sort of a matte white color with no windows, no flight control surfaces, no visible forms of propulsion. So when we're trained and when we practice, we look for surface-to-air missiles, we look for other aircraft, and we train our scan in a way to look for paint schemes and identifying artifacts. We look for a smoke trail, we look for contrails, other things that will help us figure out what it is and where it's coming from and what its intent is. And in this particular case, we couldn't figure out any of that. And so we all got very excited on the radio, talking to each other amongst the flight, amongst the 2 aircraft, and the back and forth in the cockpit, and then to the controllers, so the air traffic controller in the area of our military exercise. So not only did it look strange and not have it wasn't obvious how it was flying, because again, we look for wings and rudders and smoke trails and things that will help us understand which way is it going and how is it doing that, and then how can I get an advantage over it? Is it going to have a slow turn rate? How can I get angles to get a shot off if I need to? Not that we had live armament, not that we were off the coast of San Diego in a training mode, but we're always thinking about, can I shoot that down? Can I take that? And in that case, it wasn't clear what it was, and it really wasn't clear how it was maneuvering in the way that it was moving. So it was changing airspeed, it was changing direction, it was changing angles in a way that didn't make sense, and didn't adhere to our understanding of physics and gravity and all of the aerodynamics that we study and really live and die by, literally, in our aviation training. This UFO, unidentified flying object, didn't adhere to any of those rules. So it was really turning what to our naked eye visually looked to be instantaneously. It seemed to be changing airspeed and altitude and direction, just, without having to go through the normal contortions that we normally have to go through, and the complicated ballet that we practice in our air combat maneuvering, our BFM, our basic fighting maneuvering, our dog fighting, which is, it made us both alarmed and also really impressed in the moment to say, what is that doing? How's it doing it? And I would like to be doing that. This was and continues to be a crack in our dominance, really, in every other area, because it doesn't fit neatly in any of the conventional bins. And I suspect that that's why in the moment the chain of command said, that was weird. We don't know what it was. We've got a job to do. We've got a deployment to get ready for, and we need to focus on that.
Okay. Ooh. Okay. I'm going to go to your guys' comments. I'm seeing some good stuff in the chat. Some good, what if? What if this was Lockheed? So let's start there. Okay. So we just heard the testimony of one of the pilots who came somewhat up close to this object, who chased it, who saw it apparently break physics as she knew it. It displayed these 5 observables, as we've come to sort of coin it. Let's say, for instance, let's take Ross at his word, just for a moment. And this was Lockheed technology, or it's controlled by Lockheed, as he would say. That's what we would call a blue on blue situation. Why would an aerospace company be sending up a device and or a craft, unmanned craft of some sort, drone, whatever the hell you want to call it, unbeknownst to the pilots, unbeknownst to the radar operators, unbeknownst to the people on the carriers? The potential danger in that alone far exceeds any type of test on the people on the carriers and the pilots going out to quote unquote investigate the Tic Tac. You do not risk multi-million-dollar planes. You do not risk the lives of pilots to test out some newfangled technology from an airspace company and or a weapons technology developing company. We have to keep in mind a lot of the instruments used in the planes and on the carriers is Lockheed Martin. That is interesting. That is interesting. But I wanted to paint a context of how, I guess, high risk something like this would be to send up this top secret technology just to see how pilots react to it, just to see what they can do and how these Tic Tacs operate and or whatnot. I don't know. And or whatnot. That's not even a term, Ryan. I want to go a bit further before I get to your comments, because again, I want you guys to be a big part of this. Because I don't know what the fuck is going on. I don't. Let's hear from Chad Underwood. You guys remember Chad Underwood? He's the one who filmed the Tic Tac. He is the reason we have the Tic Tac video that allegedly correlates to the testimony by David Fravor and Alex Dietrich, which then allegedly connects to the radar tracks that were discovered by Chief Radar Operator Kevin Day, who you will be hearing from later in the show. Okay, let's take a look at this clip from the Weaponized podcast with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, where they interviewed Chad Underwood. And let's get his thoughts on could this have been some sort of black project? Okay. Here we go.
Some people have said like, oh, it's probably some black project, covert project being conducted by government agency, 3 letters, or some defense contractor that's operating with specialized kind of clearances. If that were the case, I mean, carriers operate in waters that are scheduled months, if not maybe a year in advance. I mean, you can't really shift those because you're coordinating an entire battle group, which is not just an aircraft carrier, it's the whole kit and caboodle all together operating as one. You can't just schedule that in a week. You know, that takes a lot of time and a coordination. And if they're going to conduct some sort of, you know, some covert project, we wouldn't be told like, okay, this is what we're testing, because we don't need to know. All we need to know is like, hey, from this time to this time, this is a no-fly zone, even for military aircraft. If you see these things, this is, you know, ignore it. You know, we've scheduled this range from this time to this time, and then we're going to be out of there. And that's just kind of how that test operates, in my, you know, limited experience in that world.
Okay, so, you know, Chad Underwood keeps the possibility open. However, he's basically saying, like, that's not how these things work. Like, you don't do that. You don't put something in a training range. It's just okay. The other thing here is we have to keep in mind where this happened, off the coast of California. Now, we know for a fact that because there are training exercises that the United States Navy and sometimes Air Force conduct off the coast of California, that there have been reports of spy drones and even adversary aircraft getting pretty damn close to that coast to kind of check out what's going on, whether it's from, you know, satellites or something as bold as like drones coming over here. Hint, hint, China, something else Ross brought up in his revelations. You would not put Lockheed technology, this quote unquote fifth generation, sixth generation technology, up in the air during a training mission, knowing full well that like Russia, China, somebody could potentially shoot that thing down and recover it, or get pictures of it. You do it at some remote testing range, a la Area 51. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. You guys clearly know where I'm landing on this. But I have to keep the shred of doubt. I don't know if that's the right word, open, that maybe Ross is right. Let's go back to that. These sources that Ross is talking about, that he spoke to, who told him that convinced Ross Coulthart so much that he categorically knows that the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin technology. I understand we can't know who those sources are. It's journalism 101. You don't burn your sources. I get it. I've used anonymous sources in the past. I have an anonymous person who I'm going to put some quotes up from later. I understand that. But to come at it in such a definitive way without giving us anything to back that up, it's just irresponsible. And you're talking to the guy who lives, breathes, sleeps stories. Unverified stories. Stories I cannot prove. Call me a hypocrite or call me a realist. I'm not the one saying definitively that something that pilots encountered in a Navy testing range was most definitely man-made technology from an aerospace company. You burn your sources if you are a disclosure and transparency advocate, Michael says. I can understand that. If he truly cared, maybe he would. Michael, I'll push back a little bit. This could all be some elaborate plan to get these people to go to Congress. to get them to blow the whistle in a way that will not get them in trouble. I don't know. This could all just be a continuation of this story we've been hearing for the past couple of years since, people like Rush have come forward, Jake Barber, Matthew Brown. I don't know. I don't know where this is all heading. Let me go up into some of your comments here. And I'm just going to stress this to you guys. It's okay to disagree, but please be respectful and kind about it. Everybody has strong feelings. Amen. Thank you, Suzanne. Behave, guys. We are known as a very good civil chat. I want to keep it that way. Don't make us look bad, or you are gone. Gareth says this. Let me get the video off of here. I want to say that when Ross says that it's Lockheed tech, he doesn't state that it is their tech, that he purely hints at ownership, not their developed tech. Interesting. So it's something they came into possession of. That is interesting, Gareth, especially when you look at the claims made by David Grush that recovered craft, possibly of non-human origin, have been recovered throughout the decades. And instead of putting them into a military apparatus per se, or somewhere where there would be congressional oversight, you throw it into a private aerospace company, Lockheed Martin. There is a trail that could lead you to something like that. So I do respect that. I understand that. Escape Velocity says, Tic Tacs are military drones. I believe, Ross, it's perfectly reasonable. Have you seen what cheap commodity racing drones can do? Now imagine unlimited budget military drones. Case closed. Not case closed. Not by a long shot. Yeah, I've seen what some of these things can do. We apparently saw some of it over New Jersey. We apparently saw some of it over half of the United States, over here in the UK. Highly advanced drones, huge drones. Were they us? Were they China? I don't know. But yeah, we also have to keep in mind, Escape Velocity, this happened back in 2004. Like, this wasn't 2025. There have been huge leaps in technology since then. So I'm not saying, again, that it's not man-made. But the fact that Ross is, again, definitively saying that the 2004 Nimitz encounter with the Tic Tac was Lockheed Martin technology, I still question that. And I think we all should, because we have absolutely no evidence or proof or documentation to back any of that up at all. So no, it is not case closed by any stretch of the imagination. Pat Gallagher says, was the Wall Street Journal right all along? There are no NHI. It's all human tech and we are all deluded. Or has Ross just gone all Daddy Greer finally? Greer has said recently, guys, I've been telling you this forever. The Tic Tac was Lockheed Martin. It was Skunk Works. Man. Even Stephen Greer is agreeing with Ross Coulthart. It's what an age we live in. This is interesting. Daniel Keel says, I think it's a mixture of NHI tech and sometimes human reverse engineer tech. I was thinking about that earlier too, Daniel. Like, this idea of ownership of the technology or development of it are very two different things, like we mentioned earlier. Is it something that Lockheed now owns, but was made partially with NHI tech? It's an interesting thing to ponder, for sure. For sure. Again, it's not even that. I just keep coming back to, why would they put this up during a training exercise? Oh my God. There's again, we could go a million different ways with this. Pat says they're a corporation, Ryan. They don't give a shit about pilots. I understand that, Pat, that they may not actually value the lives of the pilots, but they value their stockholders. They value, you know, losing money on their own tech and all that. And yeah. And what they're doing, if it was not approved by the United States Navy, and it put these pilots at risk, their planes at risk, the training exercise at risk, the Navy carriers that had nuclear power at risk. That sounds like a crime to me. It almost sounds like an act of war. I don't know. It's interesting. Brian, I respectfully disagree, Ryan. Sometimes the best way to test someone's ability is when the exercise is not expected. Yeah, I get that. I understand that. But again, like I keep going back to the fact that so much could have been lost during this exercise. It's off the coast. Like anyone could have come into contact with that Tic Tac at some point. Let's say it did crash or one of the planes crashed. It just, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know enough about how military exercises work. Okay. I want to show you guys one more clip before I go to what Ross Coulthart followed up with today in the past few hours with all of this. Let's take a look at this clip. I believe it was from one of the major news outlets in the United States, ABC, CBS, 60 Minutes, something like that. Where they talked to Fravor and they also talked to John Kozlowski, the current head of Aero, who has done some investigation into the Tic Tac. And I use the term some lightly. Take a look at this clip.
Unexplained anomaly is the so-called Tic Tac incident of 2004.
Really no idea what that might be.
Navy F-18 pilot David Fravor spotted the object off the California coast, seeming to move at impossible speeds. He spoke with ABC News in 2017.
We're in a clockwise flow, going from 12 to 3, and it starts going from 6 to 9. And it's coming up, and we're going down. We start to cut across. It rapidly accelerates, climbs past our altitude, and disappears. That's the last we saw of it.
Any progress?
Not much. There's not a lot of scientific data available.
Is there a procedure for making it public if you think you've actually found it? Non-human intelligence?
So there's no precedence for that, obviously, but I think that we would take that up through the Secretary of Defense and allow him to make that decision.
Okay, so David Fravor has gone on the record several times now and says he does not believe this is human technology, what he witnessed. Aero has no idea what this thing is. Now, is that true? Are they in cahoots with Lockheed Martin and just keeping it all hush-hush? Or is it true that the Department of Defense's UFO investigatory office does not know what it is, but somehow Ross Coulthart from Need to Know does know? That sounded bitchy. Again, like, I'll make a t-shirt. I don't know. Jesse Michaels over at American Alchemy, he reached out to David Fravor and asked him, do you think this is Lockheed Martin, as stated? And he said, no. And I can't tell you why, but I have very good reason to know for a fact that it is not Lockheed Martin. So there you go. I'm not saying like David Fravor's the be all end all to solve this mystery, but I'll say this. If I were you guys, I would go over to the Psychoactivo podcast with Pavel Ibarra. He did a wonderful episode a couple days ago now where he was sent an email from a listener or viewer of his show who was able to back up who they were, give all the credentials, and show the receipts that he worked for an aerospace company comparable to that of Lockheed Martin, and that he knows for a fact that David Fravor is currently working for a undisclosed aerospace company. I'm just going to take a wild guess at which company that is. Call me presumptive. I maybe I'm wrong. But if David Fravor saying that he currently works for a company who Ross Coulthart is claiming could be the controllers of the Tic Tac from 2004, and Fravor saying no, it's not. Either he's really all in with that company and willing to, sacrifice everything he once said about it. I don't know. Like you could make all these connections and do the whole conspiracy board with all of it, all we want, guys. But the fact that we're having this conversation tonight is because of the ambiguity of the claim made by Ross Coulthart. We didn't even bring up the people who came on the ship and took the radar tapes. Apparently those were people from Lockheed Martin. Score one for Ross's source, I guess. I don't know. Welcome to I Don't Know in the stream. Gareth says, hold on, I got to get this video off here. I want to say that when Ross says that it's not Lockheed tech, he doesn't state it that it's their tech. That purely hints at ownership. Yeah. What do I want to show you guys next before we move on here? Okay. So, this is another clip from Jeremy Corbell over at Weaponized. And the reason I'm playing this is because if this is true, and mind you, this clip is from a year ago. This is not current. So, the Ross Coulthart thing hadn't come out yet. We didn't get these current quotes from David Fravor. But something interesting happened to David Fravor that he shared with Jeremy Corbell. So let's play this clip and add to the conspiratorial fuel that is now this fire that we call Tic Tac Talk. Give this one a watch.
Commander Fravor the other day, and he shared some information that came to him that was just, email style. But George, it was passage material. And I don't know if people on our podcast know what that means, but sometimes in SAPs or special access programs, they have what they call passage material. It's material that is leaked to people. People try to hit us with this shit all the time, George, like false information as journalists, like they're going to use our mouths to their benefit. This material is being passed around to people like even Commander Fravor, where they're trying to kind of convince him that Lockheed Martin, as an example, had some sort of similar technology to what he saw First of all, he laughed. He's like, if people knew my job right now, they would know that I know that is not true. So it was just, he said it to me as like an alert. Have you seen this before? And I said, I have. Do you understand what's happening, Commander? And he goes, I do. So basically, it's a really interesting story, and it has a lot of real information in it. But there is a core fake information in there. They call it passage material. It was eventually, I can backtrace it, reverse engineer it, where it comes from an agency. And I'm just going to say it, man. Why does the CIA have a completely different methodology of shaping the emerging UAP narrative compared to other good agencies? Like, there are some good people in the Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation, in the DOJ, as I said, even in the DOE, DIA, there are good people looking to give correct information. So I just want to tell you, there's passage material being pushed around within the UFO community, and people are being approached by individuals, and they're kind of like boasting about it. Shut your mouths. You don't even know who these people are. So I just want to kind of give that little hidden message to people. Careful who you talk with. There's people trying to give you fake information. You got a question, call Crazy Uncle Jeremy. I will let you know and give you the receipts and the documents, as the kids say, of what I know to be false information people are trying to get out into the media.
Okay. So, correct, Daniel. Jeremy does not believe that this is Lockheed. I can empathize with Fravor and Corbell on this point, that there are times when people in the media or the podcasting world are fed things. You know, these little breadcrumbs to lead you to the answers to all of ufology. I mean, go back to the days of Bill Moore, who literally pumped disinformation into the UFO community in order to get the truth behind the UFO cover-up for himself. So, I mean, that stuff has been going on for a long time. I can 100% tell you guys right now, I have never been approached by any person from an intelligence agency, other than former ones I've interviewed on the show, but they have never ever once asked me to say something, to do something. I have never felt manipulated by any of them. I've done the interview and I've moved on. Some I've moved on from more than others. But all this to say, like, this stuff does happen. So the fact that Corbell is saying a year ago that David Fravor was told this, Tim Gallaudet was also told this at one point. Cat says, sure, Ryan, we believe you. I promise you, I've never been an asset for a former or current intelligence agency, at least that I am aware of. What was I saying? I lost my spot. I'm looking again at my TikToks. This stuff does happen. And the fact that, people are being fed misinformation sounds a little familiar, right? Wall Street Journal, anyone? I think what we will play next is the follow-up that Ross Coulthart did today over at NewsNation. What we expected with this would be more clarity on his abrupt claim that had immediate reactions. We expected a bit more information and clarity. Did we get it? I'll let you guys be the judge. Let's go ahead and play this.
for Mr. Coulthart. You recently mentioned the Tic Tac was produced/manufactured by Lockheed Martin, but you never mentioned if it was under autonomous flight or piloted. P.S. Love your reporting. Thank you, Charles.
That's a good question, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know for sure. I have been told previously that when Tic Tacs, you see, one of the other things I want to clarify here as well is there are NHI Tic Tacs. A lot of people seem to be thinking that I'm suggesting that all Tic Tacs are Lockheed Martin. That's not the case at all. What I was told, and I'm reasonably sure that this is the case, is that the Tic Tac was being operated by Lockheed Martin. And it's conceivable that that was being operated neuromeditatively, psionically, by a human psionic, which is what I understand is the way that these retrieved non-human craft are being operated. It's not clear to me, though, whether this is a craft that was built by Lockheed Martin or whether it is Lockheed Martin testing the use of neuromeditative signaling, as our friends at Skywatcher call it, to operate one of these craft. I just can't answer that question specifically. All I can do is tell you what I've been told by my multiple sources, which is that the operation of the Tic Tac was being controlled on the day by Lockheed Martin. Now, I want to say here, let's be really clear about this, there is always the possibility that sources that talk to a journalist like me may be malign. They may indeed be running some kind of psyop. And of course, I've taken that into consideration in asking the question. The difficulty is I can't go into the detail for very obvious reasons about who these sources are and why I think so strongly that those sources are telling me the truth. And I can tell you there are a lot of people who are assuring me that I'm flat wrong. And that's fine, but let's have a discussion about this.
Hi, Megan. A simple question for Ross to shed light on his statement about the Tic Tac. To be clear, even if Ross seems confident the Tic Tac is U.S. tech, does he think it's a reverse engineering tech from NHI or a tech 100% created by humans?
Okay, and again, Chris, thanks for your question. As I've mentioned earlier, we're not saying all Tic Tacs are Lockheed Martin. And it's quite clear that some Tic Tacs are indeed non-human intelligence or suspected to be non-human intelligence. But what we're talking about are objects that are showing the 5 observables doing maneuvers and operating in ways that don't conform to terrestrial craft. I can't answer the question definitively whether they are constructed by Lockheed Martin or whether it's Lockheed Martin operating a recovered, retrieved craft. Because what I've been told and what Jake Barber told me in the interview that you've all watched, hopefully on NewsNation, is that there have been retrievals of craft, including Tic Tacs. So why is it a surprise to people that a contractor that I'm alleging is directly involved in the legacy program is involved in operating these craft? And moreover, why would we necessarily expect that people, even those flying in the carrier battle group, would actually know about this or be briefed into this? It would have been a really good idea if they were going to test this technology against the carrier battle group to have let the people know. And I think people need to be reminded that my good friend Kevin Day, who I know disputes the possibility that the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin, in my book, Kevin Day told me, and he said this in many, many interviews, that when, I think it was the admiral in charge of the carrier battle group was told about the Tic Tac, he didn't seem very alarmed. Why not? Why aren't people asking these questions? Why was the commander of a carrier battle fleet that was suffering incursions by anomalous objects doing the 5 observables during a hugely important and sensitive naval exercise, why wasn't he concerned about those craft? Think about it.
Okay, Russ, you kind of touched on this, but people really want me to ask you directly about David Fravor's comments. James on X said, what is Ross's opinion on retired Commander David Fravors categorically stating that TICTAC is not Lockheed Martin? There's a part 2 to this, but I'll let you start there.
Okay, no worries. Let me first say I have nothing but admiration for David Fravor. He's given service to his country, he's a patriot, and he deserves respect and recognition for that. I'm not getting involved in a stoush with a person who's done so much honourably for his country. It's not, though, outside the realm of possibilities. In fact, I think it would be extremely unlikely that if there is, as I know there is, a compartmented secret program where Lockheed Martin is one of the primary contractors operating retrieved non-human technology and attempting to reverse engineer that technology, there is absolutely no way that David would be briefed into that unless it was absolutely necessary for the doing of his job. As we all know, when the government wants to protect a secret, it compartmentalizes it. Even if you have a top secret classification, which I'm sure David probably had, it's also compartmentalized, and that's how the US keeps its secrets. And I've spoken to people, literally, in institutions in the United States, one of whom knows about the program, and the other of whom is in an adjoining office and has absolutely no idea. I've had a situation where I've spoken to the head of a government agency that ought properly to have known about the legacy program. That head of a government agency was not informed about the fact that we are recovering non-human craft and attempting to reverse engineer that technology. A person 2 rungs down was the person that the legacy program was using to gatekeep inside that institution. It's really interesting how they compartmentalize all of this. And so absolutely no disrespect to David Fravor or my good friend Kevin Day, but they're good men. The simple fact is compartmentalization works.
That was quite a walk back. That is quite a walk back from saying you categorically know that the Tic Tac was Lockheed Martin. Not only that, but we've now entered psionic territory. So it's not that Lockheed built the Tic Tac, that this is a man-made craft that was built and then deployed by Lockheed. But did I hear him correctly in that he said that Lockheed has people who are psychically controlling the Tic Tac? What is happening? I'm sorry, I'm crashing out here. Maybe I should have had a beer. Can you guys wait like 10 minutes? I'm gonna run to the liquor store. I'm just kidding. So naturally, Ross Coulthart's source is saying that the controller of the Tic Tac used psionics to control this craft. The same psychic abilities that apparently the group at Skywatchers possess. Crazy stuff, man. God, you guys are so fun and passionate. I love it. Cheers. Cheers, Pat. Ross can state as much as he wants that, like, it's compartmentalization that caused this. Like, all due respect to the pilots who encountered the Tic Tac, all due respect to my friend Kevin Day, who tracked these things, all due respect to the United States military officers who encountered this thing. But they didn't have a need to know what the Tic Tac was. I don't understand the logic to that. I'm sorry. It just doesn't make sense to me. You know who else it doesn't make sense to? Richard Dolan. Love him, hate him. UFO historian Richard Dolan. First ever guest on the Somewhere in the Skies podcast. He had some stuff to say about this. And then we're going to get to some of you guys and some of the people who sent us in their thoughts via audio and some quotes from some of the people involved with the Tic Tac. But let's go ahead and hear from Richard Dolan. He recently came out with a video talking about this, and I found a lot of his points very compelling. Give this a watch.
Or so, there's been a very strong claim that the famous 2004 Tic Tac UFO or UAP encountered by the U.S. Navy is actually man-made, specifically Lockheed Martin technology. That claim comes from Ross Coulthart, and he said, without qualification, he said, I now know categorically that the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin technology. Now, he didn't provide any supporting documentation or evidence explaining how or why he reached that conclusion. It's a very firm claim, but so far it's been made without any accompanying technical details or corroboration. And we understand the need to protect one's sources. That's totally fair. But there are some issues here. If we do assume that the Tic Tac is ours, that is man-made, then we've got some serious questions to answer here. How is it deployed? Who authorized it? How could it breach encrypted military communications? How is it able to track aircraft in real time? Who authorized its incursion during U.S. military exercises? And there's more. I'm not saying this is impossible, but if it is Lockheed Martin, I'm not saying this is a slam dunk. And frankly, there are certain things that do not add up in my view. The problem is what we saw the Tic Tac do, that is instant acceleration, seamless control, no heat, no sound, transmedium movement. As far as what we have ever seen electrogravitics do, this goes beyond this. This is not just propulsion. We're talking some level of space-time level engineering. Now, if someone cracked that, okay, fair enough. You have to ask, why test it like this in front of Navy pilots with no coordination, no debrief? Why infiltrate a secure cap point transmitted over encrypted comms? Like, who authorized that? If that was Lockheed Martin acting alone, that's insane. If the Navy was involved, you want to ask, who signed off on that? And this is why the whole explanation of it's just advanced tech doesn't really resolve anything, because if it is ours, we're looking, first of all, at a civilizational leap, and one that's being hidden in plain sight with no accountability. And maybe that is the case. I'm not saying this cannot be human, but if you're going to say that, let's show your homework, because right now that story that we did it is just about as extraordinary as the alien one, but which has very little, frankly, to support in terms of any evidence that we've been able to amass over these years.
Okay. I agree with so much with what Dolan said there. I just had to share that with you guys. The other thing we have to keep in mind too is Lockheed Martin is in the business of making money. That's it. Bottom line, baseline, cash, baby. Any weapons developer or aerospace company is in it to be the most cutting edge, to provide the U.S. military with the most highly sophisticated technology they can. And hey, maybe the Tic Tac was one of them. Maybe it was. But if they have had this technology for this long and they have not used it yet in some of the most dire times in recent history, with global conflicts being at an all-time high, with foreign espionage, spy drones being what they are right now, alleged, incursions in the UK and the US by possible Chinese spy drones, spy balloons even. You're telling me that this is Lockheed Tech and yet we haven't seen it since? What, did the Tic Tac fail that day? Sounded like it had a pretty damn A+ day to me. I don't know. Good points. Good points by Richard Dolan, for sure. Let me see what else I have here before we move on to you guys. I'm going to save this one for later. What I want to do now is I want to move to some quotes that I got. Now, these came from various different people who had something to do with the Tic Tac event, and one of them to do with analyzing the Tic Tac event, and another from an anonymous individual. We're all guilty of it. An anonymous individual who worked with the Royal Australian military. They have some thoughts too on this. So let's move. Who should we go to first? Let's go to that. So I'm going to share this with you guys here. I received these comments from someone who I was able to verify their credentials. They are an avid listener of the show, and they are a former combat systems electronics technician with the Royal Australian Navy. They had this to say about the claims by Ross Coulthart recently. And bear with me, I'm going to read this all because I think it's all worth hearing. It is routine for the combat systems ET to download the combat system recordings regularly and send to the manufacturer, which in this case with the Nimitz is Lockheed Martin. The fighter jets and all onboard systems are Lockheed Martin. The tracking radars involved from the Nimitz incident are all Lockheed Martin. Hence, all the recordings are owned by Lockheed Martin. And of course, as reported by a former crew member a couple of years ago, delegates from Lockheed Martin would definitely have boarded to retrieve the data from the incident as a matter of routine. Nothing mysterious or unkosher about it. This is part of normal maintenance routine. I believe Coulthart has taken a, quote, leak interview by a self-proclaimed crew member stating that they saw Lockheed come on board and, quote, steal the recordings in some kind of clandestine activity. This is ridiculous from a combat system tech point of view, as I would have had to have been the person to hand it over as part of my duties. If it was an experimental Lockheed product out for testing, there are many mandatory protocols that would take place, including informing the commanding office of all involved ships, briefing the entire weapons engineering staff, fighter squadron staff, clearing airspace for hundreds of miles, and clearing marine traffic also for hundreds of miles, with a Lockheed engineering team monitoring onboard the Nimitz in Princeton. I have been a part of many test trials for prototype equipment, and there are strict protocols. They would risk collision with defense or civilian assets or human life, or risk the experimental craft being shot at and destroyed, this losing decades and decades of investment. Nobody does this. It's not Hollywood. Lockheed Martin are not Maverick from Top Gun. So there you go. Thank you to that person for sending that in. A lot of things to ponder there, but take it from someone who has been in some of these positions and knows the protocol that would go into something like this. Again, Lockheed Martin had their fingertips all over the place, guys. We do have to keep that in mind. However, to say that it was their technology and they were testing it, I just don't know. I don't know. I do find it. I will give Ross Coulthart credit for this. The fact that he said that either Kevin Day or somebody else stated that their chief at the time did not seem concerned when the Tic Tac thing was going on. That makes me a little. That's interesting. Like, kind of like, don't worry about it, carry on. Instead of being like, oh God, like, we got to figure out what this is. That's interesting. So I will give him that. Let's move on to our next quotes here. Now, these come from the man, the myth, the legend. He might be in the chat here tonight. If not, he will be joining us on the Somewhere in the Skies podcast very soon to talk about this and so much more. He is the reason we know about any of this, about the Tic Tac. And that was the chief radar operator who first tracked the Tic Tac event. I spoke to Kevin Day yesterday at length. And here's some quotes that I pulled from our conversation that he is allowing us to share with you guys tonight. Kevin says, I do not believe the objects we encountered in 2004 were man-made. The flight characteristics were beyond anything we've ever fielded. I'm talking about objects dropping from 80,000 feet to sea level in under a second. No sonic boom, no heat signature, and then accelerating off in ways no known propulsion system can explain. What's more, these objects showed intelligent behavior. They seemed aware of our presence, reacting to our aircraft, positioning themselves as if watching or even anticipating our moves. That kind of situational awareness suggests more than just exotic technology. It suggests intention. If these platforms are somehow ours, then someone not only skipped the chain of command, they did so while deploying gravity-defying, intelligent craft capable of outperforming anything the U.S. military or our adversaries have ever acknowledged. I've spent 2 decades reflecting on what we saw. The simplest conclusion I can offer is this: they weren't ours, and we owe it to ourselves and the world to take that seriously. There you go. That comes straight from Kevin Day. Our next quote here comes from someone else who was on the ship that day. That was Gary Voorhees. I spoke to Gary yesterday. He had this to say. Quote, I still to this day do not know what those things were, but if they are Lockheed, then that opens a whole new nest of problems with the fact that our government is cartelling technology and keeping us in the dark age. If they are ours, we have much bigger problems than aliens. Wow. If that technology exists, think of the potential it could have for good. For good. And it's just being stored by some aerospace company. Maybe this is why Grush is so pissed. God, now I don't blame him. Think of the potential, the benefit free energy could have on this planet. And yet here we are building fucking anti-gravity Tic Tacs as possible surveillance mechanisms or possibly weapons. Ugh, it makes me sick if this is man-made technology. It's like Dolan said, and what Gary Voorhees said, I'd rather this ship be alien. Pat Gallagher says breakaway civilization. Interesting theory. Yeah. For sure. Again, this is kind of the stuff that Grush was going after. Not just private aerospace companies, but these quote-unquote almost mythological breakaway civilizations, almost like a Wakanda. You know, if you guys know Black Panther, like a society that lives on their own, have developed their own technology, don't share it with the rest of the world, and it only advances them as a community, as a quote-unquote society. It's an interesting theory, sort of first proposed by Richard Dolan, of all people. But yeah, it does seem criminal, at least morally and ethically, if that's the case. What else do I have for you guys here? I'll save that quote for later. I got one more quote for you guys, but let's go ahead and play a couple audio clips. I had a couple people submit audio for this one. One of them is with you guys right now, and that is our lovely moderator, Suzanne. She sent me an awesome audio clip that I'm going to play for you guys about her thoughts on all of this. Coulthart, the Tic Tac, and everything in between. So let's go ahead and play this for you guys. Here's Suzanne.
It's somewhere in the skies. This is Suzanne, your moderator, and I'm here with some thoughts on the Ross Coulthart claim that the Tic Tac is man-made by Lockheed Martin. Here are some things that I think might support the possible truth of Mr. Coulthart's claim. Mr. Coulthart has a really good reputation as a journalist, especially on this topic. He's a good researcher, he's a thoughtful analyzer, and he's been connected on the inside of this topic for years. It's also very clear to me that he strongly believes this claim to be true. Also supporting this claim is that Representative Eric Burleson claims that a government insider showed him images of a U.S.-made Tic Tac. But here are some things that I think work against the claim. The first is that journalists and politicians can be manipulated and deceived just like the public, and we can't discount this possibility for Mr. Coulthart. Also, Chief Radar Officer Kevin Day completely disagrees, and he was actually there at the 2004 Nimitz incident. Recently, he came forward to address Mr. Coulthart's contention, saying, the objects observed both on radar and with our own eyes demonstrated extraordinary performance. He added that I like and have a great deal of respect for Ross, but this is now 20 years ago, and so where is this new tech? We just bombed Iran, war in Ukraine too. It's up to Ross to provide more info on this one, or it's just more noise in my view. And finally, he added that the equations that he worked out with his highly trained GPT models show a 0 chance that the Tic Tac was human-made. This opinion is also shared by Commander David Fravor, who was also present on the USS Nimitz in 2004, in an exchange he had with podcaster Jesse Michaels earlier this week. And then we have to remember that even if we set the idea of government-related deception aside, governments can get things really, really wrong. One prime example of this was their 2003 claim that weapons of mass destruction existed in Iraq, and they did not, and people died. But I don't think it's a good idea to set aside the possibility of government-related deception. Remember that this is happening inside the middle of a government-led disinformation campaign, and that deception can be proven by the incorrect testing-related facts contained in the statements made by the government to the Wall Street Journal about the 1967 Malmstrom incident. So in my opinion, it's not time to believe or disbelieve, and I'm with Chief Radar Officer Kevin Day. Until Mr. Coulthart shows us the proof, It's all just more noise.
Damn, Suzanne coming in hot with the weapons of mass destruction. So many good points. Some of which we stressed earlier. But I agree with Suzanne wholeheartedly. Like, show the receipts from this, and maybe we will in time. Like, it was a bold, abrupt way for Coulthart to come out of the gate with that. But look, this isn't the first time this man has done this, guys. Made extremely sensational, unverified claims. Where the hell is the huge UFO? With a building built around it. We are no closer to any information on that whatsoever. People have posited theories. We talked about one a couple weeks ago that it could be under the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, of all places. A lot of people think it could be in South Korea. A lot of other people think it could be at Pine Gap in Australia. The possibilities are endless, and they remain endless until we get any further information. Same for this. I thought we were going to get some clarity today on NewsNation, and instead it just raised more questions than it answered at all. Now psionics are caught up in all this. Anyways, wonderful points by Suzanne there. Let's hear from a gentleman over at the UAP pod. He reached out to me as well and gave his thoughts. So let's hear from Vince about what he thinks with all of this as well. Give me 1 sec here, guys, and I will pull that up for you here. Here is Vince from the UAP pod.
This is Vince over at the UAP pod. My thoughts on Ross. I think it'll be really good to kind of just act like I'm talking to Ross, because I would love to. So Ross, first off, I just want to say that I respect your work. You've been a powerful voice in the UFO space. Your investigative reporting, your interviews with high-level whistleblowers, and your ability to bring legitimacy to historically a ridiculed topic, it matters a lot. That's why I was so surprised by your recent comment suggesting the Tic Tac UFO was man-made, specifically by Lockheed Martin. Now look, if that's true, that's seismic. That changes everything. But Ross, you know better than anyone that to make a claim like that needs context, it needs evidence, and at the very least, it needs follow-up. Dropping a bombshell like that without elaboration doesn't just stir the pot. It really just ignites a firestorm. Like, look what's happened on social media. And here's the thing. If the Tic Tac is ours, if it is U.S., and we really do have that kind of technology, there are serious concerns that really do come with that. Like, why isn't this being used to better humanity? If we've, cracked gravity propulsion, why are we still burning fossil fuels and fighting over outdated energy grids? And why has this been hidden from the public? That would mean decades of disinformation, gaslighting, and suppression, not just of sightings, but of the very people who have reported these sightings of Tic Tacs. And then militarily, it's really concerning of who controls this. If private defense contractors possess this stuff, that's terrifying. And Ross, you're just kind of sitting on this. And I say this with really deep respect. You've earned the trust of the UFO community. But this claim, it deserves a follow-up. It deserves clarity, and it deserves expanse. Show us what you know. Because right now, we're not just looking for headlines, Ross. I get that, NewsNation. We're looking for the truth. So that's my thoughts on the Tic Tac.
Yeah. Vince is getting a standing ovation over here from a lot of people in the chat, and me and Suzanne included. Very good points. Really good to hear from Vince. We just became fast friends over on Instagram, and we'll have to get him on the show at some point. Do a little UAP pod somewhere in the skies crossover. I like what he's throwing down over there. Be sure to follow him over on Instagram, UAP_pod. Really good stuff. Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Suzanne. You guys, you just brought more color to all of this. And I love that bunny that Vince had in his photo. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, he was holding the biggest bunny, the cutest bunny I have ever seen. I love it. Okay, guys. So I didn't get as bitchy as I thought I would. I also don't want to come across as like I'm now that jaded, uh, grizzled ufologist who's given up on the topic or anything like that. I'm far from it. I am far from it. Trust. That's why the podcast continues. I got a brand new episode coming out in an hour. I've got some awesome interviews that I just booked and busy, baby, over at Somewhere in the Skies. I love what I do. I love this topic. I always will. But it's stuff like this that makes it difficult. It doesn't ruin ufology. Nothing can ruin ufology at this point. We have always been our greatest enemies, but somehow we always make it through. But again, when you have claims like this, you gotta back it up. And some of you might be looking at me like, you freaking hypocrite, because I write books about stories I cannot prove. But you know what? I've been open about that. I think I even say in the foreword of my book, like, I can't prove any of this. These are people's stories. I'm not defending myself. I'm just saying I am here to listen. That's it. Take it or leave it. For someone like Ross, he can put it out there, but he can't really say take it or leave it. He is a paid journalist, guys. He's employed by NewsNation. And he's coming forward with this information. You gotta back it up. That's what it comes down to. Thank you, Suzanne. I put a poll up over on YouTube. I want to know what you guys think after this conversation tonight and everything we have learned, unlearned. I don't know what we would consider it, but I want to know what you guys thought. Let's go over to the poll here on YouTube. Out of 94 votes, I asked, do you believe the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin technology? 27% of you said yes. 48% of you said no. 24% of you said I don't know. And 1% of you said I don't care. For the 1% of you who said I don't care, I wish I had the luxury of being that, like, nonchalant about it, because I want to know. I want to know, but not just for myself, but for the individuals that I've interviewed. Alex Dietrich. I spoke to David Fravor briefly. I've become good friends with Kevin Day. Spent a lot of time with him. I have an entire chapter in my last book, my last two books, actually, that involve Kevin Day. And that event dramatically affected their lives, all of them, in some way. It took a big toll on Kevin's life. And yeah, blah, blah, blah. I know he was just the radar operator. He didn't see the Tic Tac, as some of you have pointed out. That doesn't matter to me. It's the aftermath of it. That all of this was sort of set into motion because of him. This was his last deployment. This was his last station, was on the carrier. He was about to retire from the Navy, and then this happened. The Tic Tac event. So Lockheed Martin, or not, he became the UFO nut after that. All because he did his fucking job. Michael says, what about his UFO book? What about it? The book he put into, like, what was it? The National Archive or something? Like 10 years ago? For posterity? It was a good book, if that's what you're asking. Anyways, Nicholas watching on Twitter, please message me about a possible witness account. Sweet, we got a new witness account coming in. Have you guys had a witness? Have you had a witness account? You ever had a witness on the rocks? So good. If you've had a UFO sighting or encounter and you want to share it on the show, we do witness accounts. Would love to hear from you guys. Reach out to me through email. Email is in the show notes or on social media. We can discuss further. I'd love to have you contribute to an upcoming volume of witness accounts. We're up to like 37 volumes or something. Insane. Ooh, we got a bot on Twitch. Hello, blue green cockroach. Say hello to your digital overlords. Steamboo.net. F off, dude. And by dude, I mean bot. It's not a real person. Let me go to the super chat here before we start to wrap things up, guys. Michael Huntington says there has only been one claimed Tic Tac encounter. I would need you to elaborate on that, Michael. In that same Richard Dolan clip I played, he pointed out about 10 other Tic Tac UFO encounters. But I do understand what you mean. Those could be considered not identical to the Tic Tac event that we have grown accustomed to in 2004. But Dolan did point out other cases throughout history. We're stretching back decades that might have involved things similar to the Tic Tac. Some were strikingly similar. I will give him credit for that. So, I don't think, just like Ross Coulthart, we can categorically say there has been only one Tic Tac encounter. But I think I get what you're hinting at there. Rick said, well, Ryan, it's hard to explain, but in a security perspective, it does make sense. I do apologize, Rick. I'm not exactly sure what that is in reference to. If it was with the Tic Tac, like a blue on blue situation with the pilots, security perspective, I'm not sure. I do apologize. Hengus73 just joined the Patreon, longtime listener, first time caller. That's so cool. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate that. Thank you so much for your support. Yeah, guys, we do a Patreon as well. So if you want to help out that way, you can. You can become a monthly subscriber and you get benefits in return. You get early access to the podcast every week. Like what you're going to hear tomorrow, Monday, has been available to our patrons for a few days now. So you get early access to the podcast. You get bonus episodes as well. I just dropped one last week. I'm going to be dropping another bonus episode this week about a case out of, I believe, Brazil. Fascinating case. Which reminds me, I still have another episode about Colores that I have to do. Hint. Yeah. Suzanne, she's leading the cause on that one. So I'm gonna have to talk to her about that one. But yeah, you get bonus episodes. What else do you get? Oh, you get priority to ask our guests your listener questions as well. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining the Patreon. I truly do appreciate that. And I guess I should mention to you guys before we wrap things up, if you want to leave us here with a super chat, we are trying to reach 5 super chats by the end to reach our goal, so you can help support Anomicon, our free virtual conference that is coming to you September 20th. We have speakers in all facets of the unknown that are going to be giving you virtual presentations on that day, September 20th. It's free, completely free to the public. Anyone can watch right here on YouTube and on Twitch. But it's not free to create. There are many unforeseen costs that go with putting on a conference. Everything from paying our speakers to the streaming platform you see us from right now, to everything. our graphic artists, our composer who created the music for Anomicon, and everything in between. So you will be helping support Anomicon in many, many ways. So you can learn more about Anomicon, all of our speakers, what they'll be talking about at anomicon.com. We'll have links here, links in the show notes for that as well. Those are just a few ways you can help support us. If you can't help us monetarily, simply click that like button, smash that like button, smash it right now. Smash that like button, subscribe if you're not, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. I like this one. Juan Manuel asked me this, and he asked Suzanne as well. How many millions for your curiosity to turn from us, Lockheed and the government? All the shoes and millions you want? He asked me too, like, how much money would it take for me to just, go full bore Lockheed Martin? All UFOs are human made. Everything the Wall Street Journal said is true. I'll tell you this. It would take a simple goal of 5 super chats to do it for me. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I would not do that for $1 million. I'm not giving up on you guys, but I will take your money to continue to search for the truth behind all of this. And maybe it's true. Maybe the Tic Tac was Lockheed Martin. Ross could be completely right on this. But until we get more information, it remains a mystery somewhere in our skies. You guys are going to hate me for this last quote I'm about to put up on here. But I got to do it because love him or hate him, he always has something to say when it comes to the Tic Tac. Here's our last quote of the night. And it comes directly from Mick West. Here's what Mick had to say, and I'm just going to take this off, Suzanne, if you don't. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I couldn't read that. Appreciate it. Mick West told me this, guys. It's really just an unsubstantiated story. Even if it's partly true, the Nimitz incidents were all a series of very different events. Radar, visuals, video, that may or may not have been related. Any one explanation might only apply to only one of those events, if any. The presence of experimental drone technology does not mean that's what Fravor saw. The fact that it's experimental does not mean it breaks the laws of physics. There is a potential for a lot of dubious extrapolation, excuse me. Yeah, I went to school. There's a potential for a lot of dubious extrapolation here from what starts out already rather dubious. Speculate, sure, but understand it's just speculation. So it's in the Mick West tone. Again, I love the guy. I'm sorry, guys. I he keeps us on our toes constantly. He brings up some good points. And I kind of mentioned this earlier. Like, we're attempting to paint a full picture of the Nimitz incident. That comes from everyone from Kevin Day tracking them, to the pilots going up and encountering them, to the people on the ships who said they also saw these things, to having seen on radar these Tic Tacs for at least a week, 2 weeks, or something like that. Like, we have to keep in mind this was not a singular event. These things were being tracked on radar for over a week, which is insane. We tend to, and as humans, we try to find pattern. We're trying to put a pattern to this entire event, like make a full picture of it. When in reality, we do not know if all of these things are all connected to the same exact event. The only people that would really know that were the people who were there, and if there was ever a proper investigation done on all of this, which we are told both by Arrow and by people like Jay Stratton, that there was no official investigation ever of the Tic Tac event, which is utterly ridiculous, in my opinion. Or Was there no official investigation? Because they already know what it was. And it was man-made tech from Lockheed Martin. I don't know. But again, like, one thing does not always explain the other, I think is what Mick West is saying here. And you got to respect that. You got to respect that. He's also saying that just because maybe one of these things could have been Lockheed Martin, it doesn't mean all of it was. You can take it that way too. So I appreciate Mick being open to that, for sure. I can't believe I'm ending with Mick West. Who would have seen that coming? I think that's everything, guys. Oh, thank you so much, Michael Huntington, with the $4.99 super chat. I truly do appreciate that, my friend. I know we don't always see eye to eye, but I think we both have the same goal. We all do. And that's the truth behind all of this. You're also one of the most gracious hosts I've ever had the pleasure of working with at a UFO conference. You even tipped back a beer with me, a couple from what I remember. Sending my love your way over there in Missouri, my friend. Daniel with the $1.99 super chat. Thanks for all your hard work, Ryan and Suzanne. Thank you, Daniel. Truly appreciate you being here tonight and all your contributions in the live chat. All of you guys. Truly do appreciate that. Are we any closer to knowing what the Tic Tac was in this conversation? Nope. Not one damn bit. Are we any closer to knowing what the Tic Tac was according to the claim made by Ross Coulthart? Nope. Not one damn bit. We are further from the truth. Some people have been saying for years that the Tic Tac was Lockheed Martin. There are other people who've said it's aliens. But for most of us, we are somewhere in between. Could it be a device created by humans using reverse engineered alien technology? All these questions remain on the table, as they always do. But I hope you guys enjoyed this tonight. Again, I know it was like really casual for me, but I like this vibe. You guys know me. I'm a theater kid. You listen to the podcast, you know I get super theatrical, and I have this affecture that, like, this affect that can often come off as performative. I know that. I'm my biggest critic. Trust me. But I want to be more real with you guys, and I think tonight was an example of that. And I didn't get as bitchy as I thought I would. I'm gonna bring the sass next week, y'all. Actually, I don't know if I'll be here next week. I'll let you guys know. I got some travel coming up back to the States late next week, I think. I'll let you know on social media. So stay tuned for that. If there is a live stream next week, I will let you know as soon as I find out. I like this one. Pander Sarah, forgive my language, but Lockheed fartin'. That's going on a t-shirt. I love that. Why does the Tic Tac resemble a boiled egg? I don't know. Ask Jake Barber. Ooh, now I just want a hard-boiled egg. My kitchen's right over here. That's why I looked over there. I'm trying to remember if I have eggs in the refrigerator. I think I do. Ooh. I'm going to make some ramen. Put some egg in there. Oh, it's going to be so good. I got to go. I'm starving. I am starving. But I want to send my love and my thanks to all of you guys out there. Thank you to our super chatters. Thank you to our regulars. Thank you to our new people who joined us tonight. I hope you found this fun, enlightening, entertaining. It's a blast hanging out with you guys every week. So again, I'll let you know if we'll be here next week or not. But in the meantime, we have a brand new episode of the Somewhere in the Skies podcast premiering in a shade under an hour for you guys, where we're going to be breaking down the Chicago O'Hare Airport UFO incident, the UFO that hovered over gate C-17. And man, we have some audio tapes that the FAA was forced to release through an FOIA request. And again, just an example of them saying they did not discuss this and they did not look into it. Yet these FAA tapes came out and they most definitely did discuss it, and they most definitely did look into it. You will hear those audio tapes as this event was unfolding in real time during the O'Hare incident. Was it gate C-17 or C-7? I think it was C-17. Either way, I don't know why I'm obsessing over that. The episode was a ton of fun to make. You'll hear an exclusive interview with the first reporter who was on site to report on this incident. And that was, I believe his name was John Hilkovich. He reported to the Chicago Tribune and was able to obtain these audio tapes that you're going to hear, and so much more. It's one of the best documented UFO cases out there, and I hope you guys enjoy that episode. And then the following week, we have Dean Alioto coming back on to talk about his documentary follow-up, The Alien Perspective Part 2, which features myself. Not just me, many other much smarter people. But I will be featured in that part 2. So I hope you will check that out. We're going to talk all about it with Dean and what makes it different from part 1, how his thoughts and theories have evolved in creating this documentary series, and what comes next in the Alien Perspective universe he has created. I'm so excited to talk to him about that. And then the following week, we have John Gertz, who was basically the one of the leaders at SETI for a really long time, worked directly with Jill Tarter over there at SETI for a while, and he's coming out with a brand new book called Reinventing SETI, the new ways that SETI can contribute to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. It was a fascinating conversation, and I cannot wait to share that with you guys as well. So a lot to look forward to with the Somewhere in the Skies podcast, a lot to look forward to as we head into the latter half, I guess the second half of the year when it comes to UFOs. And man, what's going to happen? Your guess is as good as mine, but we will try to cover all of it with you here on Somewhere in the live stream and on the podcast as well. Rate, review, do all that podcasty stuff on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe, like, comment here on YouTube, and that is going to do it. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for being here, and I will hopefully see you next week, but if not, I will definitely see you in just a couple hours over on the Somewhere in the Spies. Somewhere in the Spies. We're getting espionage somewhere in the skies. So goodbye. No sign off. No log line. We're just going to say goodbye because I'm embarrassed and I got to get out of here. Bye.
There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to hide at all.